The real-world asset narrative is finally taking off, and Ondo Finance is leading the pack in terms of performance. Let's have a look at who's currently buying, who's selling. Let's look at on-chain data to try to figure out whether or not it still makes sense to buy Ondo. Now, this is not the first video on Ondo on this channel. I first published a video 318 days ago, and that video outperformed the average video. So obviously there is some retail interest. A few more videos followed as well. Again, all of those videos outperformed. And so yeah, I tried to be early on this channel, right? That first video was published when the price was still at 28 cents. Now we are at $1.67. And so yeah, feel free to subscribe. I try to publish assets that still have upside potential, that still can do the multiple X returns. Is Ondo still in a situation where it can still do another 5 or another 10x? Let's have a look. Now, the first positive news is that this is not just a random pump and dump. We do see how the protocol gets more and more assets. As in, the total value locked is nicely increasing over time. We are currently at 641 million locked up in Ondo. At the same time, we see the price recently spiking a lot, and that seems to be mainly because of larger buyers, not necessarily because there are a lot of small buyers. The number of buyers today is actually smaller than the number of sellers. It's simply just that the buyers move more capital per transaction. Now let's get into the weeds. Let's have a look at the on-chain holders. There are 73,000 holders in total, but not all of those holders are created equal, right? Some of them has just a few cents of the token. Others might have hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of the token. Let's dive deeper. What we see over here are charts that I like to look at for pretty much any altcoin that's analyzed on this channel. And that's the number of retail investors over time and the number of whale investors over time. And the way we make this differentiation is with minimum holding thresholds. So it's 500 tokens on the left, 5,000 tokens in the middle, and 50,000 tokens on the right. Now 500 tokens means roughly $1,000 worth of the token, a bit less than that. So that is small retail. In the middle, we've got medium-sized retail, so that's now a bit under $10,000. And on the right is the whales, so that's a minimum holding of $100,000 worth of the token. There's a very nice constant increase of retail interest. The purchasing has somewhat slowed down since summer of this year for medium-sized retail. And for the whales, we even see a bit of profit taking, or the number of whales at least shrinking slightly since the summer of this year. And so that is what caused this crash in the meantime. We went down by more than 60%. We also see how attention comes in waves. So this is now the number of buyers and sellers over time on the left. On the right, it's normalized to 100%. It seems like most days there are more buyers than sellers. Not necessarily today, right? Today we mainly see the large whales buying in, but on average, maybe there is 55% buyers versus 45% of sellers recently. That's what causes the rally. But let's zoom in a little bit. Let's have a look at what happened in the last month specifically. So this is where the price almost 3x'd. So it went up by 172%. During that time, the number of retail investors grew from 34,800 to 36,700. So it's roughly a growth of 6 to 7% in a month. For medium-sized holders, we grew from 9,070 to 9,290 holders. So that's less growth. That's only 2.5% growth roughly. On the right, we've got the whales. And even though in the grand scheme of things, they tend to be selling, in the last month, they did not. In the last month, they increased from 986 to 1,026. So growth of roughly 4%. So retail grew the fastest, then came the whales. The middle is somewhat lacking behind. Now for a price in general to go up, it's never that bad to also see that the investor base grows, right? The more people we see buying into a token, the higher a price can establish. Now on the left side, we see the number of new wallets per day that trade the token. And again, we're just looking at the last month and we see how this is growing over time. So this again supports the rally. On the right side, we see the number of new users versus returning users over time normalized to 100%. This seems to be somewhat balanced. Now, how much more upside potential is there? Within the RWA narrative, so within real-world assets, Ondo is already one of the largest players. It's got 2.3 billion in market cap, only beaten by Mantra with 3.2 billion. What that means is that buying Ondo is not just a purchase in hope of increased adoption, but it's also a purchase in the hope of the RWA narrative in general picking up more steam. Now, in the last 7 days, real world assets was one of the top performing crypto narratives. I believe there might be some more upside, especially given that regulation becomes now more favorable. Players like BlackRock want to tokenize more assets. They want to bring things like the S&P 500 index on chain to make it easier accessible for people outside of the US. And so at some point far out in the future, we might see how those two worlds merge, right? How crypto and traditional finance merges. And then of course the players that are directly in the middle of that merge can profit the most. Now, crypto as a whole is currently expanding very, very quickly. What we've got behind me is the stablecoin market cap. And this is a 3-year chart. So it starts in July 2021. And we peaked in the stablecoin market cap in April of 2022. Over here, what happened was the Terra Luna collapse. So this is when Anchor Protocol went bust. This is when UST depegged. The market as a whole shrunk. Money was flowing out of crypto. And this is also where FTX collapsed. And then we saw the turnaround in October of last year. Now money is flowing into crypto again. And that's recently accelerating. The stablecoin market cap going up means, of course, that money is flowing from fiat into crypto. And that, of course, means that prices across all of the crypto space should continue to rise. I really like this chart because it has very little volatility. We can see the trend very clearly. In the short term, though, we might be slightly heated. What we've got over here is again a stablecoin market cap chart, but this time that's not in US dollars. This time it's relative to the entire crypto market. So you might have heard of the Bitcoin dominance chart, right? How much of all of crypto is currently in Bitcoin? That's, by the way, currently at roughly 60%. It tends to peak at around 70%. What we see over here is the stablecoin dominance. So how much of all of crypto is currently in the stablecoins? And there is a strong inverse correlation between this and crypto prices. So when the stablecoin dominance is high, crypto prices are low. And when the stablecoin dominance is low, crypto prices are high. And we seem like, at least temporarily, to hit some potential floor here, which might mean that some cryptocurrencies might see local tops. That being said, especially in the last few days, we do see how the altcoins tend to outperform the rest of crypto. So this is the others dominance. So this is the cryptocurrency market cap that's not in the top 10. And this did go up since beginning of November to today by 23%. It appears as if there is some kind of altcoin rotation happening. At least we see the beginnings of it. And so what was the best performer across all of the altcoins in the last week? It's Virtual Protocol. Virtual is a launchpad of AI agents on the base chain, and it almost tripled in the last week. This is the long-term chart, very impressive. And the big question is, how can we buy something like Virtual when it's not up there, but when it's somewhere down here? My answer to this question is wallet tracking. It's trying to figure out what are other smart investors doing? What are insiders doing? What are people doing that move prices? What are people doing that tended to make the right calls in the past? And so it's always nice to see what is the smart money doing, what is the not so smart money doing. For example, this over here. This is an alert that BitBoy Crypto sold virtual tokens at 1.4 cents. We don't have the alerts where he bought this, so maybe he got some allocation because he's an influencer, but he sold his allocation. He did this multiple times, by the way. And again, what he sold subsequently went up by more than 10,000%. And so yeah, BitBoy Crypto, in my opinion, is pretty much the Jim Cramer of crypto. It doesn't make sense to copy trade him, but it's interesting to see what he's doing. There are other people though that are worth copy trading. For example, over here, we've got Crypto Gains that bought the virtual token. That was at 5.8 cents. So since then, the price went up by 2,500%. Who is Crypto Gains? It's this influencer here. He tends to buy tokens relatively early, and he tends to also be very public about his purchases, which can generate, of course, a lot of attention and can bring in more investors, pushing up the price further. So he does very risky plays regularly. He's got 138,000 subscribers. And so how do we get these buy and sell signals? It's through finding the right wallets first and foremost, right? It's doing some on-chain analytics to figure out those wallets. And it's subsequently by putting those wallets in a wallet tracker and get notifications whenever they buy and sell. So over here, we've got the wallets by CryptoGains that we are tracking. We've got 55 of his wallets. But then at a later point in time, we also see more people buying into the virtual token, the people that tend to deploy much more capital. For example, over here, we've got Kyle Chessy that bought $100,000 worth of the token, and that was at 48 cents. And so here is Kyle Chessy. He's got 137,000 subscribers. And since he bought, the price went up by 220%. We've got 12 of his wallets, and of course not every trade goes like this, but in general, right, I do believe it makes sense to follow the smart money. It is much better to follow the people that tend to make profit compared to simply just picking random tokens in a list. And so I like this approach that much that I made 8 dedicated tutorial videos just on this wallet tracking topic. They are over here. It's how to find various influencer wallets. It's how to track those influencers, and it's also about how to interpret the signals that we get from the tracking. It's all part of the premium membership of this channel that's down below, thebitcoinstray.com. It's not just wallet tracking that we do, it's also risk mitigation, portfolio diversification, backtesting. There's more than 100 tutorial videos in total in premium. Once we've got a signal, we of course also have to discuss when should we buy, when should we sell. That's why I've got our dedicated chats for the individual altcoins as well. So feel free to check it out. It's currently $165 per month. There's also a 1-week money back guarantee. So in case you don't like premium, in case you don't learn anything, just message me within the first 7 days and I will refund you 100%. There's really zero risk for you. And so does it make sense to still buy Ondo? I believe yes. I believe there is a lot of adoption long-term by retail, but also by the whales. But of course, we are in general currently riding the positive crypto wave, right? Ondo can go down. We have seen crashes of more than 60%, but that usually happens during a bear market. Currently, the market is expanding. More and more money is flowing into crypto. The stablecoin market cap is going up. Thus, I also believe that Ondo, measured in US dollars at least, is likely going to increase as well. If you got some value out of this video, feel free to subscribe. I publish videos regularly. A like would be very much appreciated as well. It helps the channel grow. See you in the next video, or see you in premium. Cheers.